Growing up in the public eye is a unique and challenging experience where millions of people see nothing but perfect smiles and polished appearances. Charlotte understood this reality better than anyone else, knowing the answer to what it truly meant wasn't simple. From the moment she was born, the world had celebrated her arrival. Cameras surrounded her, and news stories proclaimed her birth as a historical event, speculating on the kind of life she would lead. Yet beneath the bright and happy narratives, the complexity of her life remained hidden. Charlotte's earliest memories were a blend of quiet family moments and the overwhelming noise of her public life. She recalled wandering through Kensington Palace while her older brother George chased her through the halls, her laughter echoing in the corridors. In those fleeting moments, she felt free and safe in her home. However, even in her youth, Charlotte sensed something was different about her family. It wasn't until she grew older and grasped the significance of her last name, Mountbatten-Windsor, that she began piecing it all together. The weight of her identity would often strike her unexpectedly. The doorbell would ring, her mother would appear in a tailored dress, and her father would adjust his tie, speaking in quiet yet serious tones. They would explain their plans for royal engagements. Charlotte would don another carefully chosen dress, perfect her smile, and step into a world where every move she made was scrutinized. As she grew, Charlotte's curiosity about her role in this grand story deepened. At first, these reflections occurred in moments of solitude. She enjoyed looking through photo albums with her mother or nanny, filled with pictures from her family's past. These images told stories of her great-grandmother, Queen Elizabeth II, standing tall alongside world leaders, and her father as a child tightly holding Princess Diana's hand. With a mix of innocence and understanding, interspersed were photographs of Charlotte herself, smiling and waving, the adored young princess the world saw. Yet within her, questions brewed. Why was her family so captivating to so many people? Why did strangers know her name? Her parents, patient and loving, did their best to provide answers, emphasizing kindness, duty, and service to others. But these explanations only fueled Charlotte's curiosity. She wanted to understand not just the expectations placed upon her but also the reasons behind her family's role in history. Over time, Charlotte began to notice how different her life was from her school friends. They could enjoy the anonymity of childhood, whereas she was constantly under public scrutiny. At first, this felt strange and uncomfortable, but eventually, Charlotte saw it as a challenge and a puzzle to unravel. Her growing questions became more specific, and so did her desire to comprehend her unique position. In quiet moments, she often wondered what her life might be like if she weren't a princess. Lying awake in her bedroom, listening to the sounds of the castle, she would imagine a life without cameras, waves, and carefully rehearsed smiles. Why couldn't she blend in and experience the freedom her peers enjoyed? Yet deep down, Charlotte understood she was part of something far greater than herself. These fleeting thoughts of escape always gave way to the acceptance of her reality, one that intertwined her personal dreams with a profound sense of duty. From an early age, it was clear that Charlotte's life was deeply intertwined with the expectations and responsibilities of her family's legacy. This was evident in the way her parents spoke about their duties, the manner her great-grandmother treated her even in private, and how others viewed her family as symbols rather than individuals. Despite this, Charlotte experienced moments of pure, unfiltered childhood joy that reminded her of who she truly was when no one was watching. She loved playing hide and seek in the vast rooms of Anmar Hall, running barefoot through the gardens with her brothers, and enjoying bedtime stories with her mother. These moments grounded her, allowing her to temporarily forget the cameras and the demands of her role. Yet Charlotte's curiosity for new things grew brighter each year, fueled by the stories she heard, the things she saw, and the questions that lingered in her mind. Charlotte didn't merely want to fulfill her role, she wanted to understand it. One morning, as she sat by the window watching the garden sway in the wind, she realized being a part of history wasn't enough. She wanted to understand her place in it. Inspired by this thought, she rose from her chair and looked in the mirror. While others saw a little girl, Charlotte saw someone who was learning, growing, and preparing for a future she was only beginning to grasp. Her spark of interest had evolved into a determined desire to uncover the truth of her story, one step at a time. To the outside world, Charlotte's early years appeared almost perfect. Her birth in May 2015 was met with global celebration, and within minutes, photos of her parents leaving St. Mary's Hospital with her swaddled in a delicate white shawl circulated worldwide. She symbolized stability and offered a comforting link to the monarch's future. Yet as a newborn in her mother's arms, Charlotte was oblivious to the weight of such expectations. Amidst the cheers and flashing cameras, her journey began, a path she hadn't chosen but would one day come to understand. From a young age, Charlotte displayed a bright personality. She was brave, mischievous, and naturally curious about the world around her. Much of her early childhood was spent at Kensington Palace, where the expansive grounds and manicured gardens became her first playground. Day after day, she laughed and played with her older brother George and younger brother Louis. These carefree moments within the palace walls shielded her from the pressures of the outside world. Her parents, William and Kate, prioritized providing their children with a stable and loving home while the world saw them as the future king and queen. And Queen Charlotte knew them simply as Mom and Dad. Catherine, in particular, worked hard to protect her children from the stresses of royal life while instilling an understanding of their responsibilities. Bedtime stories, baking, and arts and crafts were part of their everyday routine, creating a sense of normalcy within an extraordinary life. During their early years, everyday moments in Charlotte's life were set against the backdrop of an extraordinary existence. Her relationship with her great-great-grandmother, Queen Elizabeth II, began to blossom during this period. Despite the numerous state tasks and ceremonies the Queen had to undertake, she always prioritized her family. Visits to Buckingham Palace and Windsor Castle were special for Charlotte, who felt safe, loved, and nurtured in these surroundings. The Queen had a unique way of connecting with her great-grandchildren. Though authoritative, she deeply loved them, making them feel valued and understood. One of Charlotte's early memories was of a special tea at Windsor, where she listened intently to her great-grandmother's stories of childhood. The Queen shared tales of her experiences during World War II, such as driving ambulances and learning mechanics to contribute to the war effort. For Charlotte, these stories were more than entertainment. They were lessons in strength, responsibility, and resilience during difficult times. As Charlotte grew older, she became increasingly aware of the two contrasting worlds she inhabited. At home, there was peace and freedom where she could laugh and explore without worry. In public, however, she faced the polished world of royal duties where every smile, wave, and curtsy was closely observed. Her first public appearance as a princess in 2016, during the Trooping the Colour ceremony on the steps of Buckingham Palace, marked the beginning of this dual reality. Held by her mother, Charlotte tentatively waved to the crowd below, her wide-eyed curiosity captured by cameras from every angle. These public moments set her apart from children her age. While her friends enjoyed carefree activities like birthday parties and school sports, Charlotte was introduced to a world steeped in tradition and spectacle. At times, the stark difference between her life and that of her peers was evident. Stories from friends about vacations or amusement park visits made her wonder about such experiences. However, she never showed anger or envy. Instead, she embraced her unique life, understanding that it came with both challenges and extraordinary opportunities. As Charlotte became more aware of her role in the royal family, her curiosity grew about the attention she received from people worldwide. During quiet moments with her parents or at family dinners, she began to ask questions. After one royal event, she inquired of her mother, Kate, "Why do those people wave at us? Why do they care about us and what we stand for?" Her mother's response was filled with kindness and wisdom, reflecting her own experiences. Kate explained, "It's also because we owe it to them to care for them back," helping Charlotte understand the responsibility and connection that came with their position. Even though the talks were short, they planted ideas in Charlotte's mind. She learned that being a princess was not just about dressing up in fancy clothes and standing on balconies, it was about connecting with others, helping them, and standing for something bigger than herself. Her great-grandmother set a strong example, reminding her of the lessons her parents had taught her when she was young. Charlotte was inspired by the Queen's unwavering commitment to her responsibilities and her profound sense of duty, even if Charlotte didn't fully grasp their significance at the time. As Charlotte grew, she worked to find a balance between her private life and the public expectations placed upon her. She cherished her time with her family, especially at Anmer Hall in Norfolk, the Cambridge family's country home. There, she could be herself, climbing trees in the yard with her mother and playing with the family dogs. These moments of freedom were vital to her, offering a chance to relax and enjoy the simple pleasures of childhood. Yet, even in these tranquil times, the shadow of her public persona loomed, with security guards and reporters occasionally intruding. To maintain this balance, her parents did everything possible to ensure Charlotte and her brothers grew up as normally as they could while also preparing them for the roles they would one day assume. Charlotte's childhood was a blend of privacy and public exposure, shaping her into the independent and curious young woman she would become. Ever aware of the special duties awaiting her, Charlotte lived a life filled with luxury and opportunity, yet it demanded resilience, toughness, and a strong sense of purpose. Growing up, Charlotte had few responsibilities, but her life changed dramatically when she became a princess. Adhering to strict rules, she gradually realized that despite her extraordinary circumstances, her life was her story to tell, and she was determined to shape it according to her own vision. By the time she turned 6, Charlotte had become more at ease with being a public figure. While she retained some of the simplicity of her childhood, she also grew increasingly aware of the expectations placed upon her as the heir to the throne. Her older brother, George, garnered most of the public's attention. Yet, Charlotte, as the only daughter of the Prince and Princess of Wales and their middle child, played a unique role. She was more than just a sister or daughter, she was a symbol of continuity, a bridge between tradition and modernity. However, her high-profile life made privacy scarce. School became one of the few places where Charlotte could escape the relentless gaze of cameras and enjoy moments of solitude. Charlotte attended Thomas's Battersea, the same school as her brother George. She quickly earned a reputation among classmates and teachers for being smart, confident, and delightfully cheeky. In the classroom, she was simply Charlotte, an engaged student who loved reading and art. At lunchtime, she laughed with friends and played games on the field with gusto. Yet, even at school, her life as a princess cast a shadow. Fellow students whispered about her family and occasionally posed questions she wasn't prepared to answer, reminding her that the rules of her royal life extended even to these small pockets of normalcy. Even though her teachers knew she was special, they treated her like any other student, always aware of who she was. During this time, Charlotte's personality started to emerge more distinctly. She mastered the art of the royal wave, her small hand moving with a natural ease that made her appear younger than her age. Cameras often captured her playful side, such as when she smiled cheekily or tugged on her dad's hand. Charlotte's happy and expressive demeanor wowed everyone, particularly at Princess Eugenie's wedding, where her cheerful face stole the spotlight. On family trips, she continued to charm the public with her natural appeal, skillfully balancing formal poise with authenticity as she stepped into her role. Despite her calm demeanor in public, Charlotte sometimes felt challenged or became introspective as she grew. Her curiosity about her role in life expanded. She began to ask questions about why people always took her pictures or why her family was so closely observed. These weren't questions that could be answered in one conversation, they required time, context, and careful guidance. Her parents understood the importance of shielding their children while preparing them for the future. They encouraged open discussions at home, with Kate in particular emphasizing the value of caring for and helping others. She viewed the family's responsibilities as opportunities to contribute positively to the world. The Platinum Jubilee celebrations for Queen Elizabeth II marked a significant moment in Charlotte's early public life. The 4-day event, filled with parades, music, and street parties nationwide, was a grand spectacle. Charlotte, impeccably dressed as always, stood with her family during the Trooping the Colour ceremony, watching the world honor her great-grandmother's extraordinary 70-year reign. The event's magnitude was overwhelming even for adults, yet Charlotte remained remarkably composed, projecting a maturity beyond her years. Still, her human side shone through the grandeur. From the balcony of Buckingham Palace, where she and her family observed the air show, cameras captured her laughing and chatting with her brother George, showcasing the delightful balance of poise and personality that defined her early years. Later, at the Platinum Party at the Palace, Charlotte clapped along with the music, and her happiness was contagious. People appreciated her for these small, relatable moments, which helped spread the idea that despite their high rank, the royal family is friendly and down to earth. That being said, these events were not easy. Behind the scenes, the long hours, the constant need to stay calm, and the ever-present cameras could be exhausting, especially for a child. Charlotte sometimes felt the weight of these demands, but she was fortunate to have family members who supported her during such times. William and Kate made it a point to check in with their children, ensuring they felt safe and valued. Thanks to her parents' approach, which combined discipline with warmth, Charlotte managed these situations with ease. As Charlotte entered her preteen years, her friendship with her brothers became increasingly important. Being the eldest, George often shared the stage with her at public events. Their relationship was built on mutual respect, and they got along well as siblings. George, aware that he would one day be king, took his responsibility seriously but also knew how to lighten the mood with a joke or playful nudge. Meanwhile, Louis, the youngest, brought a sense of joy and freedom to the group. His uninhibited laughter and carefree movement reminded Charlotte that there was always room for fun and play even in the structured world of royal life. At home, the three siblings were inseparable. They spent hours playing together, building pillow forts, running through the grounds, and sharing stories at dinner. These moments of connection grounded Charlotte, giving her the strength to navigate the more challenging aspects of her life. She felt more than just familiar bonds with her brothers, they were like a team, united by the unique journey they were on together. During her preteen years, Charlotte also began to understand the broader impact of her family's work. She accompanied her parents to various events and observed how they interacted with people from all walks of life. This exposure helped her see the difference her family's efforts made in the lives of others, deepening her understanding of their role and responsibilities. One of the moments that stayed with Charlotte was when she visited a children's hospital. She watched as her mother bent down to talk to a young patient, showing kindness and support. This simple yet meaningful exchange made Charlotte reflect on the importance of being kind and connecting with others. Although these moments were brief, they began to shape Charlotte's understanding of her role in the royal family. She realized that small acts of kindness could make a significant difference and that her family's presence could provide peace and hope to those in need. It was no longer just about fulfilling rituals and posing for photographs, it was about making a genuine impact. This realization marked a shift in Charlotte's perspective. Her life was no longer solely about herself, it became about helping others. As Charlotte grew up, she became more confident in her ability to handle the complexities of her world. She was no longer just a pretty princess smiling for the cameras, but a kind and thoughtful person striving to find her place in her family's history. The journey was not always easy, but Charlotte faced it with the strength and grace that became her hallmark. Over time, she came to understand the deeper truths of her role in the royal family. She had always been aware of the public's interest in her life, but it wasn't until the passing of her great-grandmother, Queen Elizabeth II, that she fully grasped the significance of duty and memory, not just for her family but for the country. The Queen's death and the Commonwealth, as well as the Queen's death, was a monumental event that changed Charlotte's life and deepened her understanding of the responsibilities she would one day inherit. The days leading up to the state funeral were filled with solemn rituals, heartfelt tributes, and extensive preparations. At just 7 years old, Charlotte found herself at the center of history. Although she was accustomed to public life, this occasion was different. The sadness of the event was palpable, reverberating through Buckingham Palace and beyond. Despite being surrounded by her family, Charlotte felt a unique sense of loss. To her, the Queen had been more than a renowned figure, she had been a beloved great-grandmother who would never be forgotten. On the day of the funeral, Charlotte displayed remarkable composure. Dressed in black, she wore a small horseshoe brooch on her coat, a thoughtful gift from the Queen. Her calm demeanor and quiet dignity during such a profoundly emotional event reflected the strength and grace she had been cultivating throughout her young life. She stood with her parents, her brother George, and many other people filled the streets to mourn the Queen's death. Their quiet respect reflected just how much she meant to so many people. Inside Westminster Abbey, the ceremony was grand but also deeply somber. Even the adults present found it difficult to handle the songs, prayers, and moments of silence. For Charlotte, this was a moment of profound understanding. She realized that she wasn't merely attending a family event but taking part in an important occasion that would be remembered for years to come. As the service continued, Charlotte's emotions began to surface. Despite her efforts to remain composed, her small hands clutched the program tightly, and her lips pressed into a thin line. When the choir began singing a hymn that the Queen loved, she could no longer hold back her tears. Though she tried to stop them, they streamed down her face. Cameras captured the moment and broadcast it to millions of people worldwide. It was rare for a young royal to show such vulnerability, and it resonated deeply with those who saw it. Charlotte felt both embarrassed and relieved in the aftermath, as this was the moment when she could no longer suppress her emotions. Charlotte's mother noticed her distress and leaned down to comfort her with a soft hand on her back. Standing tall beside her, her father offered a reassuring look, his expression a blend of pride and understanding. These small gestures of kindness reminded Charlotte that she wasn't alone, even in such a public setting. The sight of her tears prompted an immediate and heartfelt response from people everywhere. Social media was flooded with messages of support, with many praising her bravery and kindness. One post featured an image of Charlotte wiping her eyes and noted, "She's just like any other child." Moments like these reminded the public that even the royals are human. For Charlotte, who had spent much of her young life navigating the balance between her royal duties and her individuality, the outpouring of support was both comforting and enlightening. It showed her that being open and honest about her feelings was not a sign of weakness but a way to connect with others. This realization brought her a sense of peace and understanding that would stay with her beyond that emotional day. Charlotte reflected on what her great-grandmother had left behind. In the days following the funeral, she deeply admired the Queen for her dedication to her work, her strength during tough times, and her ability to connect with people from all walks of life. Charlotte thought about the quiet moments they had shared, such as walking together through the grounds at Balmoral or having tea while listening to the Queen recount stories of her childhood. These memories now felt like treasures, pieces of a connection that helped Charlotte understand who she was. As Charlotte said goodbye to her great-grandmother, she realized the funeral was more than a farewell. It marked a moment of understanding what it truly meant to be part of the royal family. It wasn't about titles, ceremonies, or public appearances. It was about service, hope, and continuity. During her reign, the Queen embodied these values, and now it was up to the next generation to carry them forward. At home, her parents ensured Charlotte had the space and support to process her emotions. Kate was always there, spending quiet evenings listening to Charlotte as she expressed her thoughts and feelings. William also took the time to comfort her, reassuring her that it was okay to ask questions and share her emotions. These conversations were invaluable, helping Charlotte make sense of what had happened and find her footing again. Gradually, Charlotte began to see herself in a new light. As more people expressed their admiration for her, she realized she wasn't just a child trying to navigate life as a princess, she was part of a larger narrative that spanned centuries. While this understanding came with challenges, it also gave her a profound sense of purpose and belonging. The tears Charlotte shared at the funeral transformed from a painful memory into a meaningful moment that stayed with her. They reminded her it was okay to truly feel and express her emotions, even in the most solemn situations. This experience taught her an important lesson that would shape how she lived her life and understood her role within the royal family. Throughout her life, it seemed like the world also learned something from that moment. Charlotte's tears gave the royalty a human face and revealed what was truly happening behind their polished exterior. They showed people that everyone, even those with power and privilege, experiences the same emotions. Grief, love, and the strong bond of family are just some of these shared feelings. Although it was a small event in the grand scheme of history, those who witnessed it would never forget it. Life for the royal family began to settle into a new rhythm in the months following the Queen's death. Charlotte's transformation was marked by a deeper desire to focus on herself. She recalled the immense support she received after her tearful moment at the funeral not as a memory of weakness but as a powerful lesson in how strength can come from simply being yourself. She had come to understand that being royal didn't mean concealing her emotions, it meant managing them with grace and understanding how they impacted others. Charlotte often reflected on her future, as well as the future of her family and the monarchy as a whole. What role would she play in the story of how an institution with such a rich history evolved over time? She had always admired her father's efforts to make the royal family appear more modern and relatable to the public, while her mother's kindness and love inspired her to connect with others on a deeper level. Both had taught her that tradition and change could coexist, and she aspired to live her life with that same balance. This forward-thinking perspective began to emerge in conversations at home, where the family frequently discussed the positives and challenges of their royal duties around the dinner table. George, ever the thoughtful one, shared his hope of becoming a kind and honest leader when his turn came to shoulder more responsibility. Louis, full of boundless energy, brought a refreshing viewpoint to these discussions, reminding everyone that there was always room for fun and spontaneity even in the most serious situations. Charlotte found these conversations incredibly valuable as they offered her a glimpse of what might be possible in the future. One evening, as they sat together in the living room, Charlotte asked her parents a question that had been on her mind for some time: "What do you think I'll remember about the monarchy?" Her father paused, carefully considering his response. He explained that her legacy would depend on people like her and how she and her generation chose to carry the monarchy forward. He emphasized that it wasn't enough to simply preserve traditions; those traditions needed to hold meaning for the people they served. These words stuck with Charlotte, providing her with a sense of purpose that transformed her perspective on her role. She no longer viewed herself as merely a passive observer in the history of the kingdom. She wanted to make a difference and find her own way to connect with the world while also respecting the work of those who had come before her. She believed that instead of trying to live up to other people's expectations, she should remain true to her duties and use her status to make a meaningful impact. When she thought about her journey, she often reflected on her great-grandmother. Charlotte had always had Queen Elizabeth II in her life, and the Queen had been a source of knowledge and inspiration. Charlotte held deep respect for the Queen's ability to evolve with the times while staying true to her core beliefs. She recalled how the Queen had imparted valuable lessons through the many stories she had shared about being strong and helpful, and those lessons served as a guiding map that helped Charlotte navigate the more complicated parts of her own life. Charlotte also drew inspiration from her mother, who redefined what it meant to be a royal in the modern world. She admired Kate's focus on mental health, her dedication to helping children and families, and her genuine way of connecting with people. Charlotte witnessed firsthand how her mother used her fame to bring attention to important issues and make a lasting difference. This served as a reminder that being royal wasn't just about appearances, it was about taking action. As Charlotte's interests developed, they began to take shape in ways that helped her consider how she could contribute to the royal family's future. She enjoyed being outdoors and often went on walks with her mother in the countryside. Her love for art grew as she found comfort and freedom in painting and drawing. She was also naturally drawn to people and was eager to hear their stories and understand what they had experienced. These developing interests gave her focus and direction for the difference she wanted to make one day. Charlotte knew that the government would eventually need to adapt to the world around her as things were changing at a rapid pace. People were increasingly talking about climate change, mental health, and social equality issues. She believed she could help address them. Although she didn't know everything, she was becoming more determined to use her voice and position to advocate for change in the years that followed. Charlotte's role in the royal family continued to evolve with every public appearance, making it clear how confident and poised she had become. However, she remained grounded because her family was always there for her, ensuring she could grow at her own pace, balancing the responsibilities of adulthood with the joys of being a child. Her brothers remained her best friends, and the experiences they had shared over the years only strengthened their bond. Charlotte often thought about how people perceived her. She hoped they saw more than just a title or a carefully staged photograph. To her, it was important that they saw a girl who loved her family, cared about the world, and was driven to make a difference. She understood that her journey had only just begun, but she was ready to embrace all of its challenges and opportunities. During quiet moments of reflection, Charlotte felt hopeful about the future. She realized that the kingdom wasn't just a collection of rules but rather a story of strength, service, and relationships. She was proud to be part of this story and excited to help shape its future. One evening, Charlotte sat by her window, watching the soft glow of twilight settle over the palace grounds. She felt a sense of calm and determination. She didn't need to know all the answers yet. It wasn't about the steps she would take or the lessons she would learn, but about the people she would meet along the way that truly mattered. The story was hers, and she was ready to share it. And with that, the day's movie concluded. If you've made it this far, be sure to check out more movies on the channel.